So once again, I'm Nadine Patterson, and this is SIFT Media 215. So Sreedevi is our primary speaker this evening, the Director of Programming and Production at WHYY TV in Philadelphia. And the other person who's our wonderful guest tonight, returning to the Philadelphia area, is independent producer Malkia Lydia. Malkia Lydia, she has a new project, and I'm going to share that on the screen next. She has a new project called What's in a Name. What's in a Name is currently in the final phase of production, and she's in Philadelphia this month. She's going to be going around town shooting stuff. She's even looking for a PA, so she's going to talk about that. And she's still looking for, guess what? Funding. So if you are so inclined, we're going to put the link to her donation page in the chat in a couple minutes. But look, this is a very important project, and the first part of our program tonight will be Malkia and Sreedevi talking about the process of getting a long format, a feature-length documentary onto public television. The second part of our program tonight is going to be looking at how to get a short film onto public television, a piece that's 10 minutes or less. And for that, we're going to have the amazing Nikki Harmon sharing with you a first look preview of The Last Responder, part of our COVID-16-19 project from SIFT Media 215. And that project was also funded by the amazing Independence Public Media Foundation. And we have a rep here tonight, Noella. Shout out to Noella. Hey girl, how you doing? So she's been a true champion of SIFT in the city of Philadelphia for the past 18 months, just dynamite. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand the program over to Sreedevi and Malkia.
Great, thank you so much, Nadine. I'm so excited to be here. I want to first apologize. I was feeling very unwell and couldn't do PTV 102. So I'm excited to get to be here for Public Television 103, and even more excited to be joined by Miss Malkia Lydia. Hi, Malkia.
Hi, thank you.
I started my career working in public media, specifically really public television at ITVS. I was there for 10 years, and I've been at WHYY for 6 years. And as Nadine shared, I will be leaving in January to pursue some other opportunities. But I have been working in public media and television I'll be entering my 17th year in 2022, which is really crazy to think about. But my real heart and commitment and passion has been from day one working with independent filmmakers and in documentary films. And I'm very, very excited in my time at WHYY to have really supported and worked with makers to expand the footprint and the pipeline of content coming into WHYY. And one of the filmmakers I was introduced to, right, Malkia, I think when I first started WHYY, but not in this role, if you want to talk about that, was Malkia via ITVS, actually.
Yes, so yeah, first of all, thank you so much, y'all, for inviting me to be a part of this. Really is so close to my heart because this is where I came out as an artist, and I got the courage to say, yes, I'm a producer, you know, through all the places that people know about here, Temple, and it was Image Weavers back then, and Scribe, and all of that. And so there was a point, I want to say early 2016, when we were awarded a Diversity Development Fund grant, which is kind of a small kind of seed award, I should say, from ITVS. And it was like the biggest thing ever. And I just, in our minds, you know, from day one, we had been trying to link with WHYY, and they introduced us to Sreedevi, who was then at that time, I think, in development or another part of WHYY, who then introduced us to the person who was, I think, the programming manager was called at that time. And we engaged in conversations. Those were not the first, but some of the first conversations we were able to have with WHYY about what a potential partnership could look like, because we knew our story was, you know, one that we wanted everybody in Philadelphia to see. So, and this is important. So I want to say that there were some bumps early in the road in our attempt to work with WHYY, but that there's a happy ending. So just, you know, stay along for the whole story. But I want to say, when Khalil and I first decided that we were going to make this film, Khalil Munir is my protagonist and co-producer and collaborator in the project. When we first decided we were going to make this film, We were just like, this needs to be on public television. From the beginning, we knew that's what we wanted, and we're going to call WHYY. So we cold emailed someone who I won't name, but was an executive producer, I think, at the time at WHYY, based on like, we looked at people's profiles. This person's going to get it. We emailed them. I promise you, within 10 minutes, they emailed back excited. You know, this is the kind of thing that we want to see here. We want to help mentor you, or I want to help mentor you. Unfortunately, I can't greenlight projects that we partner with. You'll have to submit it to our online portal, and it'll go up the chain to like the vice president of such and such and such and such. And so we were excited. We were like, oh, certainly this is going to work out. We have someone on the inside championing this. And we got no response, like zero response from submitting it to that portal. That was the first attempt, I want to say 2009, 2010. And then, you know, we would come to events and just hang around the edges. And then, you know, fast forwarding after a whole bunch of work and progress on the film is the introduction that I want to say that came from ITVS. So it just it is what it is. Having someone introduce and vouch for you, one, can make a huge difference. And it's not as hard as you think to find someone who knows someone who knows someone. And then secondly, having the right person in the right position who gets you and gets your story makes a big difference. And I feel like WHYY has come so far in that direction, and I know they'll continue even after you leave. You know,
and having worked in public media before coming to WHYY, I was very aware that WHYY was not at that time, though it had previously been considered a really open place for independent film and independent filmmakers. And I'm really lucky having been able to work at ITVS for 10 years and to come to the station and be a part of a major change that was happening at the station and a really revamping. And I think kind of it's interesting, Malkia, you say 2009, 2010 was that first email, because I think, you know, when the recession hit, there was a real focus on news, on digital and television. You know, at that time, everyone was saying television is dead, broadcast is no longer king. And then, you know, we're 12 years later, and we're like, that's clearly not true. But I think in the last 5 years, there's really been a major pivot to really refocus the energy and the ways that we're working with video and working in television and online distribution. Wait, Malkia, okay, yeah. And so, do you want to, and so why don't you go ahead, jump in, Malkia.
I'm so happy to get to the good part. I forgot, okay, there was another bump in the road, and this is important. So even after getting inside, where Sreedevi introduced, Sreedevi introduced us to the person who was the then program manager, who had a meeting with us and was very encouraging. We were way early. We didn't even have all the material we have now, but we showed a little something. We talked about it. We were excited. We talked about the outreach we wanted to do. And this person at that time in that position had all kinds of ideas about how we may be able to do impact and outreach together, and even trying like how we might be able to use the venue for some things that we needed, really trying to be welcoming and open to us. But again, even after all that and wanting to write a letter of interest, which I know you'll explain, but why that's so key to have that letter of interest that we wanted to have to show funders, ran it to her superiors, and they rejected it and said that she couldn't even write us a letter of interest at that time. And so that happened. Yeah. And that was a real blow, because we thought we were in. And then, you know, eventually we got to a point where you were in your position that you are now, and we got reintroduced to you, and it's been golden since.
Well, you facilitated that part. That was the great part, is that you were on the AFI Docs panel. Is that what it was? We still have a lot of growth, and we all, as always, need to continue to grow. But I'm really excited by the work, not only that we've done within the building, but what is developed and continues to develop in Philadelphia, SIFT 215 being an amazing example of that, of these collectives that are really supporting, advocating, and amplifying for makers in these stories. And so when Malkia and I reconnected, we were able to write a letter of interest. So I want to stop there and talk about the letter of interest. So a letter of interest, at least from WHYY, is an indication that we have heard about the film, we've had a conversation with the filmmaker, and we're interested to learn more about the film, and upon completion and review, we'll consider it for broadcast. And I say that because as a programmer, I will, you know, I'm not going to say yes to airing something I haven't seen the full program of. You know, I want to always make sure I've seen it. But, you know, being able to be in conversation, understand what the film is about, is really important. And what that letter of interest that I've heard from so many filmmakers about, especially in the early phases, does is one, show that you have a relationship with a broadcaster. I think also because of the reputation of PBS and us being a PBS station is really significant. It allows you the ability, hopefully, to start getting more funding. You know, you're applying, you have these grant proposals, and you're like, yes, this isn't just a film that's going to be made and we don't have any support or connections. No, we have the major broadcaster in Philadelphia that knows us, knows our project, and has said that they would be interested in considering it for broadcast. And so one of the questions is, how early should we tell the public television station, or I would say WHYY, about our film? The minute you have the idea, be reaching out, because there's so many conversations happening at WHYY all the time. And I actively track a pipeline of programs that I've heard about, that I'm interested in. And I always want to know what's going on, because if someone, for example, in a content strategy meeting were to say, oh, hey, we're really interested in exploring ... or I've heard, I could be like, oh, I know a filmmaker who's working on that. I've been in conversation with them. I would love to connect you. We should be talking, with them. So it is never too early to let a maker know. I mean, let a station, myself, the programmer, know about your film. All right, so letter of interest happens, and then you start your funding journey, Malkia, right?
Yes, and I just want to point out that, at least from my side, on the maker side, of course, there were some things that WHYY had to correct in its relationship with filmmakers. But honestly, I had to get stronger too. Like, I had to get to a place where you couldn't deny me, where you had to talk to me. And the big break for us in terms of funding, we had gotten a little bit of local support, and we were pretty much just funding this thing out of pocket. But I do think that the ITVS Diversity Development Fund, even though it needs to get bigger, needs to be able to have more recipients, is so important, because it's now 25,000, with 15,000 and maybe early 10,000. You can't make the entire thing for national broadcast with that. But to be able to walk to somebody and say that ITVS saw what we had and thought we had some potential, it absolutely changed everything. And we had never dreamed in the beginning that we'd be able to do anything like that. We just didn't think it. And so we had to get to a place where we got stronger and stronger and stronger, and also listen to some hard feedback. Like, there was a staff person at ITVS who point blank told me, I'm ready to hear this glowing remarks about our draft. And she was like, let me tell you, you have a subject and you have a theme, you don't have a story. And so, okay, we went back to the drawing board, and we fortunately got that grant, and that opened so many doors for us and allowed us, honestly, to be able to shoot some of the best material we had at that time, and then do the sample and do all these other things, so that then, no matter what gates people were trying to put up, it was undeniable. Like, you have to listen to us, you have to talk to us. Give you the little, one sentence. We chose that particular one to show tonight because we're really trying to show the story, really over 12 years, of a young artist who becomes a father and uses his art to interrogate the story of his family, the story of his history, and the sort of the father-son legacy and dynamic in his own family. So it's called What's in a Name. Should have done that first.
Wow, that was powerful. I mean, first of all, the editing was gorgeous, cinematography gorgeous, and this is the first time I've seen that. So I just was seeing the mix of the storytelling and the theater. I was like, I was like, I want to be at WHYY when this is broadcast, but that's what's fun. I get to be an advocate for it when it comes to broadcast. So what I would say, kind of from a station perspective now. So, I met Malkia. We have the letter of interest. I was at Good Pitch Philadelphia, tracking her project. That's right, I'm tracking her project. I know, Malkia, you're applying to Open Call at ITVS, which is another significant possibility. And Open Call provides finishing funds, if I still remember my time there accurately, for documentaries. And in exchange for providing those funds, they acquire the broadcast license rights to the film and support, once the film is done, to get it distributed on public television. So from a local perspective, one, I know that I have my eye on Malkia's film. I'm going to be tracking it and checking in with her regularly. But I also know that she is pursuing significant funding for national. And so where the local and national relationship comes in then is we kind of just wait. we're going to wait and then see where Malkia lands nationally. If she's able to get on a PBS series like Independent Lens and POV, WHYY airs those series at the time that PBS schedules it, Monday nights at 10 p.m. And so I know that that broadcast will come to us. And then, but what I also know is, you know, there's a lot of programs in the schedule. But what I have the opportunity to do, because we have developed a relationship and I'm aware of it, is the minute I get that information more than it gets published to the system, is I can go inside the building and saying, hey, there's a broadcast coming. It might be in 2022 or 2023. We need to track this, and let's start early, possibly talking with Malkia and with the team about what are ways we can collaborate. We don't want to wait, oh, the broadcast is next week. Nope. No, which doesn't mean we can't do stuff, because I also believe strongly in working with content post broadcast, right? This isn't just about the broadcast. This is about long-term continuous engagement. But that's, again, why it's important for your programmer to know. And so at this point, we'll wait to see what happens nationally. Now, the other options that you were mentioning, Malkia, is also there's the PBS major series, such as Independent Lens and POV. There's the World Channel, of which the executive producer, I think that's Chris's title, is Chris Hastings. And they have incredible series on the World Channel. Now, WHYY unfortunately does not carry the World Channel, but I've been talking with Chris, and for films that I'm aware of, I would be working with Chris to figure out how can we get that film on WHYY. And luckily, Chris is from Philadelphia, so he has a special place in his heart for Philly. And so so that's a conversation that we would be having. And then really supporting longer term engagement. What can we do? Can we do a screening? Can we invite Malkia onto one of our properties, one of our radio shows, such as Radio Times, our weekly show, You Want to Know, to talk about the film. And those are the conversations that we would be trying to talk about in the building, making sure that we feature it in our newsletter and our social media, because broadcast is important, it is critical, but we have to tell people, we have to make sure we promote it. And so making sure that that additional, those resources, those assets are surrounded. I'm curious, Malkia, what are you thinking about for festivals and festival runs? Have you gone down that path yet? Have you started thinking about it?
Oh yeah, we've definitely thought about a dream ride. I'm a little like, I'm embarrassed like to say, okay, we want to be in your festival. So, but of course, okay, just do it. Of course, in our ideal world, like we want to be like a little bit irreverent. We want a world premiere at Black Star. That's what we want to do. You know, we want to, you know, we want to definitely take it to festivals that have the reach into communities that we want to reach. And so those communities are Black folks who are from, you know, urban communities who ask the same question Khalil and I asked, like, what happened? Like, we know our community has these divergent tales, and what do we do to restore, like, who we know we are, right?
Yeah. What's your distribution? Where do you want to go? Because what I wouldn't want to have happen is to have a broadcast on WHYY preclude you from being eligible for local festivals. You know, being on WHYY won't affect, you know, a festival in Oregon. It won't affect California, but it might affect a local festival, to be determined. So that's, again, an important thing to think about as part of it, because this isn't just about, to your point, Malkia, getting to broadcast. This is about distribution. This is about impact. This is about long-term engagement. And how do you think about that all holistically? And also platforms, what platforms you want to be on. That affects what rights, you know, all the rights and licensing and all that stuff. But I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking that this might be a good point, Nadine, for us to see questions that people may have that came up around the conversation, what you're hearing.
Yes, definitely. Let us take some questions from the audience. Now, for this part, please turn on your cameras so that people can see you.
I was wondering about how important, and this is for both Sreedevi and Malkia, about how important is it to have a producer on board before you start, you know, especially for DDF. I was just wondering, did you have a producer before you applied?
No, it was me, myself, and I and Khalil. I should also say, let me just want to be real authentic. I had been in again, showing up at little community level media workshops down where I'm from in Maryland. And somebody who was there who works in the public broadcasting system, got asked to recommend people to go to a one-day workshop where you learn how to make your film more competitive to the public television world. Something similar to this. They sent my name in. I went to the workshop. That's where I met the staff person who gave me the review and told me my treatment sucked, and I rewrote it. You know, so all those kinds of things kind of added up. But it was just me with no credit behind my name.
Putting together our first cut right now. We are looking towards the public television route, but I know deep in my heart, my targeted demo is on streaming services and not watching public television. How, I don't know if it's like percentage, but how many films that go to public television can cross over, I guess is my question, to more popular platforms.
So, well, let me think, is it when you say crossover or can be made available at the same time on multiple platforms so that you can broaden that reach? So yes, I can be on public television, reach that audience, and then I can be on other platforms and reach other audiences. Is that? It
can start on public television and go, but I just
want
to live there.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely possible, and I think definitely we see that all the time. I mean, the number of independent films that either simultaneously now, sometimes even a little bit earlier than a broadcast, not too many, are on a Netflix streaming service or on other streaming services, then have their broadcast or really closely after broadcast are available on streaming services. Absolutely. And we know obviously with the pandemic, we saw the rise in online streaming, in overall viewership. But I think broadcast got a bump for about 2 or 3 months, but streaming was like huge. So I think you can absolutely cross over. I mean, I think the things that public television really allows that you won't necessarily, and please anyone jump in and correct me, is because of the nature of public television, because it's really a decentralized system of hundreds of stations across the country. One of the things is there is a direct relationship with a local audience. So you can come and talk to the programmer at WHYY and have a deeper level of engagement, a co-sponsored screening, promotion in the Philly market that a streaming service probably isn't going to be able to provide you. So the accessibility might be there, but the engagement is, I really think, honestly, one of the most powerful things about having your program on public television.
How long is your final cut going to be? So it's going to be public TV, but what's the length?
No, that's a great question, because for us, we have been, you know, people say digital first. We've been thinking public media first from day one. So we're like 56, 46, whatever that, like, you know, PD,
56,
public television hour is.
46.
And people are like, oh, so you're really going to have a feature and cut it? No, this is what we're doing. This is for public television. We want free universal access. So that's been our goal.
Yes. Can I say something about that 5646? Because this is the part that becomes a place of a real surprise to filmmakers around that. Is 5646 is a PBS standard. It's the national PBS organization standard that all pretty much across the board, all the content we get from PBS ends in that 46, you know, whether it be 2646 or that 646. But that is not all content. So that is not straight content, right? That is packaging, that is acknowledgement of funders, that's your credits, that's your web tag. So really, and if you get on a series like Independent Lens and POV who have series packaging on top of your own packaging, you're probably looking closer to 51, 52 minutes of actual straight content. Now, if you're not going to have a national broadcast and you're going to go locally, that probably expands out to 54, 55 minutes. Now, the thing is most local stations, and this is true for our station, so I'll speak to WHYY, we try to stay within that parameter, but we've had films, we had a film that was like 61 minutes and it was like not 61, it was like 31, 32 minutes, and we really wanted it. Now we can't, it's very hard to work with a 31-minute film because it just bumps, you know, people tune in at 6:30 or 7 or 7:30, everything gets bumped back. That filmmaker, but we didn't want to have to ask them to cut too much, right? Because it was also a finished film. We were going to have to require that you know, their editor was done with it. So it was like, how short could we get it? We got it, I think, down to like, I think the filmmaker delivered at 29 minutes. We're like, we can make that work.
Thank you so much, Sreedevi. Thank you, Malkia. Sure. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing your wonderful films. Thank you to all the sifters who are working on the COVID 1619 project. We look forward to seeing your completed films very, very soon. And thank you to Independence Public Media Foundation for providing the funding for this very important set of short films about the dual pandemic of the COVID virus and racism in America, white supremacy. It's a disease. It's a serious disease, everybody. Okay.
Can I add one thing? I just put my WHYY email address and my personal address. Please reach out to me, even if I've left WHYY. If you have questions, you don't understand, you just want the real truth about something. I really believe passionately in the work that y'all are doing. The public television system has so many wonderful things about it and so many challenges that if in any way I can facilitate anything that might assist you on your journey, please reach out. If you don't hear back, email me again. That does not bother me. I encourage it, please. And please take advantage of it. Feel free to share that information with any filmmakers you know out there